Welcome to the John James High School Football Report, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad to have you guys back another Tuesday night. I'm finally 100% healthy. I'm not sick anymore. I've been sick the past two shows. So this show's locked and loaded. I want to get right into it. By the way, I love that beat by Skrillex that he made for Justin Bieber. It's awesome. But no, anyway, this show is locked and loaded. We have tons of guys all across the country. We got kids from Hawaii, Georgia, California. We got Ryan Swartz calling in from Vegas. All types of people, listeners. The panel is just locked and loaded right now. It's ringing up. Everybody wants to hear everybody tonight. And I actually have Jim Cobern and Bill Caroll coming on like they do every Tuesday. We're going to talk coaches. We're gonna fill some coaching spots up. Mythical, I guess, coaching jobs. They've yet to be filled, but we're going to try to help those teams out. UCF, and I think we're going to do. We'll see. I got a surprise team for school tonight. We'll throw them into. I think Illinois, because Bill's from Illinois. He lives in Chicago, so we're going to do them, and that should be awesome as well. But we've got two callers in right now, I believe. Two prospects. 2018 class. Introduce yourself, guys.
Hi, my name is Jacob Isaia from Honolulu, Hawaii.
All right, yep, that's Jacob Isaia. He's, one of a solid prospect. 2018 class, offensive tackle right now. Could possibly see him possibly even playing tight end at the next level. Depends on how he develops. And Brock Mattison from Northview High School in Duluth, Georgia, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yeah, man. I see the 678 area code. I'm familiar with Georgia. I lived in Warner Robins for a little bit in Macon. So.
Okay.
Yeah, Henry County too as well. Kind of south of you. I'm glad the guys had you guys on tonight. I appreciate you guys calling in.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm going to start with Jacob. Jacob, we've had a few guys from Hawaii calling the show. You guys are well represented, but outside of California, where I'm from, Hawaii seems to be the place to be, man. You guys are just topping off all types of NFL players. Has a Heisman Trophy winner last year. What is it like playing football, not in the mainland in Hawaii? Obviously, it's beautiful. You play in the most beautiful state, possibly the beautiful place in the world. But how is it playing football in Hawaii every week?
Football is going good. We ended the season with 2-7, and it was our first time in Division I, and it was my first year on the varsity team, and I was starting at left tackle.
Okay, great. And going up against defensive ends every single week, how was that? You're starting pretty young. You're 16 years old right now, I believe.
Yes.
Okay, so how was it, doing that, being a starter so young?
Well, it was challenging, but I got a lot of exposure to what type of defense was coming at me, and I learned a lot. Okay, great.
And Brock, you were on the opposite side of the ball. You're rushing the passer, the opposite side of Jacob. How is it like for you? Obviously I know about Georgia high school football. It's crazy. I know you guys just made the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. How is that? Congratulations on making the playoffs, by the way. Who's your first opponent, and how is it just going up against those offensive tackles as a young guy every single week?
It's very different, but this summer I didn't have no free time. I just kept grinding, going to football camps, going to my training sessions. Next thing you know, hard work paid off. Going against those big tackles at practice compared to the tackles that I go against now, it's easy now. But
right.
I'm still developing, and I'm hoping to develop more. And the team that we're playing in the playoffs right now, their whole line is 6'3", over, now I'd say 280, and that's all of them. Number one thing in the state.
Oh, who do you guys play this week?
Mill Creek.
Oh, okay, yep, good school. I've definitely heard of them up there. What is your current height and weight right now? Both of you guys, I guess I'll start with Brock and then I'll go with Jacob.
My height is 6'2", 205 right now.
Okay. Jacob?
My height is 6'3", and my weight is 235.
Okay, great. Yeah, we always want to make sure we have, prospect weight and height close. I mean, some coaches over-exaggerate. You guys pretty much have you guys on deck for it, for your height and weight. Pretty much on par with what we had. So I just wanted to make sure. Brock, what any scholarship offers so far or visits or,
Not yet. The only
not yet
that invited me was Auburn and Georgia. So I'm hoping something can spark up soon.
Yeah, man. You guys got 2 years left. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm sure both of you guys. Same for you, Jacob. Is there any offers right now going on or visits or any camps?
No, I haven't received any offers yet, but I've had interest from UCLA, USC, Washington, Azusa Pacific, and a few others. And I actually just came back from a unofficial visit to UCLA.
Oh wow, that's great. How was that?
It was awesome. I got to meet the coaches, and I also got to meet up with the Hawaii guys that are playing on the team.
Okay, yeah, that's great. I mean, Pasadena is a beautiful campus. Even though I am a USC fan, but it's still a beautiful campus, and Pasadena is awesome. So yeah, that's great. Jacob, let me ask you, who were some of your favorite players growing up, or currently right now, maybe the NFL, past or present, or maybe in college football?
Well, I usually just like the Hawaii guys, such as Marcus Mariota, Manti Te'o, and Fred Ulu-Perry that goes to UCLA. Yeah,
that's a good name. How was meeting him? He's one of the top prospects, going forward to the next level. So how was it meeting him on your visit?
Hell, it was great. Everyone here in Hawaii talks about how big Fred is, and I never got to talk to him in person, but when I got to meet him, I was like, whoa, like they were right. And he's really cool. And we keep in touch on Twitter.
Okay, have you had? I'm sure you've probably heard of this player, Michael Elatis. Have you had a chance to play him, or do you know?
Yeah, he's a great friend of mine. Yeah, we hang out a lot.
Okay, yeah. Well, we had him on the show a couple of weeks ago. Actually, he was great. We actually had Joey Iosefa, is how you pronounce his last name, I think. Playing for the Patriots, right? Iosefa, exactly. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, we had him on the show as well during the draft period as well. We're happy for him. Brock, let me ask you the same thing. Who are some of your favorite players growing up or currently right now in NFL or college football?
Jadeveon Clowney.
Oh, beast, yeah.
Oh,
that's a good one to have, especially at your position.
Oh, yes. He is. I never really seen him in person, but, he is my role model.
Yeah, like I said, he's great to watch. I mean, watching him during the combine, you really see what kind of freak athlete he was. He was like a once-in-a-generation, type athlete. And obviously what he did at South Carolina. And, when he stays healthy on Texas with J.J. Watt, there's something serious together. Possibly the best combo, pass rush combo in the NFL. So, yeah. Are you a Hawaii fan, Jacob? You're kind of like Oregon because, they get a lot of players from the islands or, for college football?
I'm not much of a Hawaii fan. Yeah.
Well, I somewhat understand why. They've had their struggles, obviously, the Norm Chow and everything, so I understand that. Would that be a school that would be on your radar, though, to stay home? Because I feel like they haven't done a good job at keeping a lot of the best homegrown players at Hawaii for whatever reason. I guess money is a pretty big issue in facilities, but would that be a school you'd be interested in?
Maybe, but I'm more focused on getting offered by either UCLA or Michigan State because my dad played at UCLA and my grandpa was an All-American at Michigan State.
Oh wow. Okay, that's great. Yeah, that's great to hear. Well, I mean, both of those schools are, top 25 schools every year. Both great coaches that are going to be there for a while, in my opinion. So, what about you, Brock? UGA fan, Tech, or maybe Auburn? I know how Georgia is. It's kind of split, but oh man, the rivalries this weekend.
Oh yes. Georgia's in the mix too. Georgia's really nice. Auburn's really nice. Ole Miss too. I just like everyone.
Yeah, I mean, the atmosphere of those SEC schools, man, it's crazy, you know. It's great. It is really the epitome of college football. You know, when somebody from the outside is looking at it, you know, you usually show off maybe Texas school or SC or UCLA, but, I mean, the SEC schools really have it, you know, as far as their fan bases and the passion. You get ridiculed, but you get a lot of praise, too. So, and they're just the passionate fan base. That's what we want to see in high school and college football. I mean, both of you guys are solid prospects. I'm going to have my eye on both of you guys this year. I do have one more question for both of you guys, I guess, before we move on and get out of here. Jacob, last one for you. If you could, you know, play any position, would it still be offensive line, or would you possibly make a position change?
You know, I would. I like offensive tackle. It's really good, but you know, I also want to play a defensive end.
Okay, yeah, you're gonna play Brock's side of the ball. Brock, same with you. I mean, more outside linebacker or defensive end for you? I guess I would say
I'm
at the
more
next level, or maybe
defensive end.
I understand that because, like I said, you're what you said, 6'2", 205 right now. You're gonna grow.
Oh yeah,
guys, a lot. I'm sure your parents have told you that, and your coaches and stuff. So, I mean, I like talking to the underclassmen because I like projections and I like seeing the growth on the field and off. You know, you guys handle yourself pretty well, man. 2 16-year-olds on the show. We had Alan Walters last week from Paramus Catholic. Actually, another youngster, another 16-year-old in your class. I think he's one of the top 5 quarterbacks according to pretty much every site around. So, yeah, I mean, the underclassmen love is good. We try to stay ahead of the curve on the show. I'll say that. But I want to thank both of you guys for coming on the show, man. You guys, you know, took out time out of your nights to come on the show, and I appreciate it. Jacob, tell people where they can follow you on Twitter. And, you know, I'll put out a link of your tape, of course. He has really good tape, guys. If you're watching, if you want to see a good another good player from the Allen, he's one of them. Tell them where they can follow you on Twitter.
At Jacob Isaia. JACOBISAIA.
And same question for you, Brock.
My Twitter is Brock, BROCK, AK, Mattison, MATTISON.
All right, and Brock, good luck on your game this week.
Thank you.
You know, versus Mill Creek and those guys. Hope you get the W. I don't know anyone from that school, so I can openly root for you guys.
Good luck, Brock. I'll follow you.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, follow both of these guys, man. Both of these guys, like I said, if you want to be ahead of the curve on both these guys, I mean, do it now. You know, the 2018 class, right? Or 2017 class?
2018.
18, that's right, yeah. 2018 class. You know, both these guys are, like I said, top players. They're going to be top players. They might not have all the name recognition right now, but they haven't gone to the camps yet. They're not even juniors. They're youngsters. You know, they're both going to be really solid players. So thank you both for coming on the show tonight. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. No problem.
Thank you.
No problem. Have a great night.
All right.
You too.
That was Jacob Isaia and Brock Mattison, Duluth, Georgia, Northview High School. And I can't pronounce Jacob's high school's name, but it's in Honolulu, to be honest. I don't want to butcher his high school name. But those guys are great players. Like I said, 2018 class, offensive tackle. Jacob said he wants to play defensive end as well, too. I could see him playing defensive end, offensive tackle, tight end. You just don't know yet because he just turned 16. He's so young. He's 6'3", 245 pounds, and he just turned 16. So who knows what he could be in 2 or 3 years. And Brock Mattison, you know, he talked about Jadeveon Clowney, studying him, and he's fast. He's really fast, I noticed, for his position. Obviously, he's undersized right now. He's 6'2", 208, or 205, excuse me. But he's going to be one of the top pass rushers in the country. Watch out for him up at Northview High School. And, yeah, those guys are great. And we look like we've been joined by Ryan Swartz, one of my favorite guys in the world, talk high school football. And Jim Cobern as well. Looks like he joined.
Yep.
How's it going, fellas? You guys doing all right tonight?
Great. How are you doing? Good.
I just told the guys or whoever's listening before I am not sick anymore, so I'm perfect. I'm happy. USC won this weekend. It was homecoming. Had fun.
Right on.
I wasn't sick. Exactly. Right. So, I'm happy. And plus, we have football at, like, almost a peak right now, from the NFL. Even though my team lost, it's okay. Still good football being played. College football, obviously, is amazing. The rankings came out and everything. And then high school football. Of course, the expertise of me and both Ryan Swartz, high school football is, state playoffs for most teams. California kind of just started in Texas, bigger states in Florida like that. But most people are deep. I mean, we just talked to a kid from Hawaii. Their playoffs are all pretty much over already. So I think they're going to state championship right now, if I'm not mistaken. So, but, hey, I'm glad you guys called in. We're going to get into a lot of things tonight. Like I said, this show's locked and loaded. Brett Virgil, he's going to be in. It's confusing, man. He's still in the playoffs. Speaking of the California kid, he's a quarterback. He's starting quarterback. So we're going to let him call in at the end of the show. It was supposed to be the beginning, but his coach told him to watch tape, which is fine. Definitely watch tape instead of being on my show. Take care of business, man. But yeah, we're gonna have Brett Virgil in. We're gonna go. Me and Ryan are gonna go over our top 10 quarterbacks, regardless of class, which I think is going to be really fun. We're going to get into that right now, actually. And then top 25, I'm going to talk about the RSEN report, top 25 rankings that I do. And we're going to gloss over the games of the week. There's a few. The top 25, it's not great this week, but there's some good games I've circled for Ashley and I kind of want to talk about with Ryan. And actually, we're going to go over a little bit of something new. We're going to go over some Sparks rankings and star rankings over the past 4 or 5 years, which I found really interesting. Bud Elliott and Jason Kirk of SB Nation, even though I've had my beef with those guys, not those guys in particular, but SB Nation recruiting guys, they did a really good job at showing you that stars do matter, actually, more than you think. So we're going to go into that as well. And, something me and James always do is go over the revolve, and go back to the old recruiting classes. We're going to do 2003. We're going way back. The kids I have on the show probably don't remember that class because they were too young. They were born in 98, or 99 or whatever. Some even 2000, which is crazy to me. This job makes me feel a tad bit old, even though I'm only 26 years old. But, we're going to get into that too. 2003 recruiting classes kind of led by Reddy Bush and a bunch of USC players, actually, and Florida players. But we're going to that, and we're also going to find head coach for 2 Power 5 schools. Illinois is one of those schools that definitely complete overhaul. They just fired their athletic director. The president is new. Everything's new. They're going to need a head coach. They're going to upgrade some things on the stadium, hopefully, for their sake. So we're going to help them try to find a head coach. And we're going to I keep forgetting about UCF. They're not a Power 5 school, but, I feel like they kind of are a little bit. But, we're going to talk about them a little bit, too, towards the end of the show if we have time to. But let me get into this with you, Ryan. Top quarterbacks in the country.
Yeah, let's do it. I know you got a loaded show, so I'll move through these a little quicker than my top 10 players from last week. But
no, you're
first,
fine, man. You're fine.
Yeah.
Go into detail. Do whatever you need to do. Top 10 quarterbacks, though, Ryan.
Yeah,
give them, people want to know.
Yeah, mixing it up from 4 different classes. I want to throw out a couple honorable mentions that didn't make the top 10, but you have J.T. Daniels, a freshman quarterback out of Mater Dei, and Spencer Rattler, another freshman quarterback out of Pinnacle, Arizona. 2 freshmen that are putting up really good numbers and really helped their teams to winning seasons. So couldn't be more impressed with freshmen that can get on the varsity field and compete, put up numbers, and help their team win. So I'll throw those names out there for any fans listening, a couple of future All-Americans probably down the line. And also Dylan McCaffrey, a junior quarterback out of Valor Christian. He's a 4-star. Obviously, anybody with last name McCaffrey out of Colorado is a stud, so I thought I'd throw him on the list. Great size at 6'5", 200. Not on the list, actually, but just the name I wanted to throw out there as some good quarterbacks around the country. But starting off the list, number 10, Joey Gatewood, a dual-threat quarterback out of Battram Trail, Florida. His recruitment and rating really picked up over last summer. right now he's rated a 4-star. I won't be surprised if that goes up to 5 by the time he's done in high school. Big kid, fast kid, listed at 6'3", 206. Currently splits time with another quarterback at his current high school. And I say current because the way some of those kids in Florida shift around, I wouldn't be surprised to see Gatewood end up maybe at one of the power high schools in Florida, maybe IMG, St. Thomas Aquinas seems to get a lot of good kids. So I'm sort of going to keep an eye on that and see if he moves anywhere. But Joey Gatewood, sophomore quarterback, definitely worth keeping an eye on. Tristan Wallace, a dual-threat senior quarterback out of DeSoto. DeSoto didn't have the year that everybody expected. I believe they're at 5-5 right now, but entered as the top 10 in most rankings. Loaded team, but he's committed to Ohio State. So any dual threat committed to Ohio State has good things ahead in their future. So Tristan Wallace is number 9. Number 8, Alan Walters, pro-style quarterback out of Paramus Catholic, New Jersey. Only a sophomore, so he's young. Listed at 6'2", 200, 4-star. Already has offers from Alabama, Michigan, and Ole Miss, just to name a few of the handful that he has. So I think Alan Walters, along with all those other New Jersey stud quarterbacks, right in the mix with one of the best in the country. Just ahead of him, another sophomore pro-style quarterback, Matt Corral out of Oaks Christian, California, has a couple offers from UCLA and USC, listed at 6'2", 185. I think guys like Walters and Corral, sophomores, just like I mentioned, along with freshmen, very impressive to see them do what they're doing so young and early in their careers. So I expect big things from Matt Corral as my number 7 quarterback. Number 6, Malik Henry, pro-style quarterback, senior from Long Beach Poly, 5-star, listed at 6'3", 185, committed to Florida State. Disappointed, Poly got their hands smacked and had to forfeit 4 games, sort of a sticky situation out of Long Beach, and now Long Beach Poly won't be competing in the Pac-5 playoffs in Southern California, but Malik Henry just really started to get it going. His last 3 games, he threw for 940 yards and 12 touchdowns combined. So sort of a disappointment. We won't get to see what he can do in the playoffs, but he's on the big things at Florida State soon. Number 5, Jared Guarantano, who we talked about last week. And Donovan, I got to apologize. I couldn't hear you real well last week when you were asking me about his injury for Virgin Catholic.
It's all right, man. But I was barely making it.
But it did turn out he is injured, lost for the season with a foot injury. So needless to say, he didn't play in that Don Bosco prep game. But 6'4", 194, real lengthy kid, listed as a 4-star. He's committed to Tennessee. In his only 5 games in the season that he played, he passed for over 1,200 yards and had 15 touchdowns combined through the air and on the ground. So senior that'll be on to Tennessee next year, comes in at number 5. Number 4, KJ Costello. He'll be one of a few Army All-American quarterbacks, listed as a 4-star, good size at 6'4", 215, out of Santa Margarita. Talked about him last week. He's committed to Stanford, and I really look forward to seeing what he can do with Stanford's weapons on the offensive line and a great running game. And they are plucking a handful of really good receivers the last couple of years. So I look forward to seeing him possibly be the heir apparent to Hogan over there. But we'll see how that develops.
Yeah. Ryan, let me interject really fast.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a quick question, actually, about that quarterback battle. Keller Chris was a top 5 quarterback a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
People kind of forgot about him.
Yeah,
exactly.
Oh, yeah.
And we also know about his family, his dad, his uncle, and stuff like that. He's been there for a while, so he's got a huge heads up on KJ. But do you think KJ has a chance to beat him out, or is it kind of going to be like Jarrett Stidham, where he was like he played just as good as Seth Russell with spring ball, but they were just more familiar with Seth, and he was the best quarterback leading the offense, kind of type of thing? Or do you think he has a legit chance to beat him out?
To be honest, I think that he has the talent to compete really with anybody, especially at that next level. But if it was me, if all things were equal, I think Chris just having the familiarity, that much more experience, being in a college system just through practice, spring ball, that stuff. I would probably give the nod to Chris if all things were equal, but I certainly think that he has all the tools. He's going to Stanford, so obviously he's a bright kid. I actually spoke to a St. John Bosco fan that knew his family real well before he was even committed, and he raved about how smart he was. So, over 4.0. So, I think that KJ will go in and compete, and he won't, let the lack of experience hurt him. But it'll be interesting because I remember how highly touted Chris was coming out of high school. So that'll be real interesting. I'll definitely keep an eye on that race, next spring, summer. But good question.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that and you mentioned Malik Henry, too. Now, I think that quarterback battle is going to be interesting at Florida State. I think Sean McGuire will win the job because of experience. Their team's going to be a lot better next year. So Sean McGuire, obviously he struggled Saturday, but I think he's going to be a senior, redshirt senior. He'll probably win the job, but you got Francois from IMG Academy. You're going to have Malik. Malik's going to compete, man. One thing about that kid is you can throw him in like they did at Long Beach Poly, with really not knowing the playbook that well. He's just really good because he can do everything. That's why he's 5-star Malik. That's his name on Twitter. So I think that's going to be a pretty good battle too. At Florida State.
I agree. If I had to bet, I would say KJ Costello's chances of starting next year would be a little higher than Malik Henry's. Like you said, Malik's got all the tools and everything. I just think he might lack a little consistency that KJ Costello might bring to the table at Stanford. But definitely two quarterback battles that will be worth keeping an eye on.
Right, yeah. You can go ahead with the list. And you're on your number 4 right now, correct, right?
Yeah, KJ was number 4. Moving on to number 3, Jacob Eason, senior quarterback out of Lake Stevens, Washington, rated a 5-star. Great size, 6'5", 205. I've never seen him in person, but just through highlights and video, he might have the strongest arm out of anybody on this list, whether he stands tall and lets it ride or even off his back foot. He was throwing bombs. So Jacob Eason, he'll be another U.S. Army All-American quarterback. Right, he's committed to Georgia. I believe he has the best stats of any quarterback on the list right now this season at over 2,600 passing yards and 34 touchdowns. So Jacob Eason going to Georgia all the way from the West Coast. So number 2, Tate Martell, another Army All-American. Tate is class of 2017, so only a junior, but is committed to play in the Army All-American game. And another 5-star rating, Bishop Gorman, committed to Texas A&M. As we've talked, I believe it was the first time I was on your show, although he's listed as a dual threat, this season he seems to be working on making more throws from the pocket, so trying to round out maybe the weaker part of his game if he has one. But Tate Martell, we'll get to see him for another year in high school before he moves on to the college ranks. And number 1.
Oh, wait, hold on. Don't let the people know yet. I like suspense, man. I'm just kidding. No, but really, I just want to say, Tate Martell, I kind of got on him earlier in the season. I actually see that Bill Caroll is in the queue as well. Hello, Bill Caroll. Glad you can make it tonight.
Of course.
Yeah, I actually talked about Tate on this show with Bill about his completion percentage. Obviously, I know Tate really well, so I'm gonna be a little harder on Tate. And I'm gonna love. You watch Tate in person a lot more than me. You're there. You're like pretty much there at every game for Gorman. You know what I mean? Obviously, you're the man in Vegas besides Tate. You know, but, you know, yeah, I mean, Tate struggled. Obviously, they played super hard opponents. I mean, those 5 teams they played, 6 teams they played, I guess, like, toughest in the country. Completion percentage was down. Tried to stay in the pocket more. You can tell he's trying to be more of a pocket quarterback. He can't run everywhere, you know, when he gets to the next level. He's not the biggest guy in the world. But he's gotten better, you know, towards the end of the season. Now, I will say this, you know, they're going to be Centennial this weekend, of course, but that's a pretty solid team just because Greg Rodgers and that line are pretty decent, you know, all-around defense. Defensively, pretty decent. So, you know, I want to see more of him, you know, obviously going forward in the camps and everything. I can't wait to see him in Elite 11. I cannot wait for Elite 11 because the 2017 class quarterbacks, to me, are better. You mentioned a couple of them right there. I'll get to my list soon, but, yeah, I just want to definitely say Tamron Toad's gotten better. Completion percentage has gotten higher. Touchdown interception ratio is great. And it seems like he's been in high school forever.
Yeah.
You know, because obviously I heard about him in San Diego at Poway. And, you know, obviously he's been at Gorman. He's been on national TV more than college quarterbacks, you know, already. You know, yeah. He's played in big-time games. He's played versus Rosen already, you know, and all types of guys. So he'll be on national TV next year, too. And the year after that and the years going forward. So, yeah, he's done a good job. But, yeah, we'll get to your number one quarterback. Like I said, we got Ryan Swartz in from Las Vegas, Nevada. He's giving us his top 10 quarterbacks regardless of class. And who is your number one quarterback in the country?
Well, number one, since Javon McKinley doesn't play quarterback, my number one would be Shea Patterson. Shea Patterson out of IMG Academy, 5-star committed to Ole Miss, another Army All-American guy. He's a senior, so he'll be playing in that this season. Sort of like Tate, the reason why I ranked Tate so high, Shea's at IMG and obviously puts up his numbers and, you know, is undefeated against some top-notch competition. So I think that says a lot about these guys and will translate for them at the next level. We'll actually possibly get to see them compete in the SEC, Tate at Texas A&M and Shea at Ole Miss. So before going to IMG, Shea was a 2-time state champion in Louisiana. So look forward to watching that kid on Saturdays.
Yeah, who does Shea Patterson kind of remind you of? Because I couldn't put a finger on it. Like when I was at Elite 11 and on the West Coast, and a lot of people thought Aaron Rodgers a little bit because he's athletic. They're kind of the same size.
That was the first name that came to my mind.
Right. Same here.
Because he's got that sneaky, you know, that sneaky escapability. He likes to stand in the pocket and make throws, but he definitely can get going. Definitely can make plays with his feet, but more of a labeled as a pocket passer.
Yeah, he's going to be something special at Ole Miss.
Yeah, I think so.
Obviously they got Chad Kelly for the next 2 years probably, and then I think he's going to step right in probably. They'll probably redshirt him next year, and he'll step right in, I believe. Because they got Devontae Kincaid as well, so I think they'll use a redshirt on him because Devontae Kincaid's pretty solid quarterback. And they got another junior college quarterback coming in. He's great at getting junior college quarterbacks. Has gotten a little bit maybe trouble off the field. You know, he gives guys a lot of chances. So, yeah, I mean, Shea Patterson, yeah, I mean, I'm going to look at it, let you guys know. He's my number one quarterback, too. I'll get into my list, but the suspense is over. I mean, Shea Patterson is number one player, according to Rivals.com, overall, actually, ahead of Rashawn Gary, moved ahead of him. So, do you guys have any questions for Ryan Swartz about any players or the quarterbacks that he's gone over?
I do.
Okay, great.
Don has talked a lot about the camp circuit, and, you know, obviously I'm old school. I think it's cool that kids get to run around in shorts and, you know, have a great bonding activity, but to hear that
Hold on a minute here, Bill. Hold on a minute here, Bill. You're telling me you didn't have camp when you were a kid?
I got to go to Officer Basic Camp. I went to Officer
It wasn't the same.
Camp.
I bet you that. Yeah, I know Bill's background a little bit. I mean, I'm not Bill, but I know he's from Virginia. But also know that
Virginia.
he couldn't. They weren't flying Bill out to Oregon or California.
They weren't flying me out to They weren't taking
Anywhere.
me out for pizza. They weren't. I didn't get a hot dog.
Yeah, and I've talked to the older guys. They didn't even. I'll let Bill finish questions. They didn't have. Apparently, they didn't even have like local camp. I mean, local camps was the best you can get, maybe in your like region or city. That's about it. Now, I mean, there was quarterback camps and stuff, but you had to be a 5-star guy, I guess. But go ahead, Bill.
And the way that it's been explained to me, there have been guys who've gone from being 4-star to 5-star, or in the other direction, 5-star to 4-star, or sometimes 4-star to 3-star, 3-star to 4-star, not based on anything they've done in a game, not based on tape, not based on arm strength, not based on whatever, but based on camp, what they did or didn't do in a camp. And like I said, it's great that they get to have the activities and the experiences, and they get to meet each other, but that just seems like the most cockamamie thing in the world to just take, okay, we got 10 games of this kid on tape. That's cool and everything, but look what he did for this 4-day period in a camp in shorts. We're moving him up.
I couldn't agree more, Bill. Part of my travel on the West Coast, I like to see the highest-ranked teams, but also the highest-rated players, and most of the time that will go hand in hand with one and the other. But every year I see 5-star and 4-star kids on the field that just don't live up to the hype and just don't live up to the rating. I try to give them the benefit of the doubt and hope that it's just, a projectable thing, and when they get that college coaching that they'll excel at the next level. But certainly I've seen my fair share of 5-stars and 4-stars that really don't deserve that rating on the field with their play. So couldn't agree more with you. I would prefer there to be way more evaluation on the field and how they perform with regards to the success of their team rather than what they're doing individually, speed or strength-wise or measurable size.
Yeah, that's Oh, go ahead. Sorry about that.
Oh, sorry about that. There's also, to some extent, people use terms like confirmation bias or whatever, but if a kid doesn't have the quote-unquote hype or whatever and doesn't have the money, they don't get to some of these camps. So
exactly.
You're automatically excluding people who might be really, really good. And I guess you may know about this, the studies that have been done on the 5-stars going forward, the average quote-unquote star rating of a quarterback who's starting in the NFL is like 2.7. I think
wow.
is what was discovered.
Yeah.
Well, look at him. Look at him. In the NFL, there's like 2 5-stars starting in the whole league, and only a handful others are even backups.
Yeah, I would love to look more at that.
Look, do it. It's not that hard.
Yeah, actually,
I think Matt Ryan was a 3-star. I think Rommel was a 2-star. Brady was a 2-star. Breeze was a 3, I believe. Stafford's a 5. You got one there. But, not many. There's not many 5-stars.
Yeah, I'm sure Russell Wilson, I don't think it was probably a 3-star or maybe less.
He was a 3. You nailed it. He was a 3.
Yeah, Carson was a
2 or a 3.
5 as well.
Yep.
Blake Bortles
sure Peyton Manning was
2-star. I think.
Blake Bortles might have been the
3-star
quarterback that started, actually, because he was number 93 in his class. So he was a 1-star.
He was a tight end / quarterback.
Yeah, he was, exactly. He was rated higher than – I'll let Ryan touch it. I will say this. Ryan does a really good job at actually traveling, and I know you go to camps too, Ryan, but this man travels all over the place. So he does a good job, especially on the West Coast, at getting watching the best of the best go against each other in the games with pads on, Some people there's a lot of new school guys and some old school guys too. There's guys that talk to older guys that like the camps too. It's easier for them. It just is,
Right. I get that because they're all there in one place. They get the convenience.
You know what rhymes
all
with easier?
All the best players
are in the same spot. Hey, Dom, you know what rhymes with easier? Lazier.
True.
Rhymes with easier.
I've seen.
And I'm not trying to call anybody out. I'm just saying, and I do agree with Bill, and that, that's one thing that I'm not the biggest high school recruit guy because I'm I don't know, I just have way too many projects and other stuff, but that was one thing I was going to look at was, with the whole STAR system, the camp system, because there definitely is inefficiencies in the system. And if I don't have enough time to look at it, like I said, maybe one of you guys could try to, fix some of the inefficiencies, because if you could, then you probably would be Mr. Recruiting, guru guy. You'd actually be pretty high up there, in terms of stuff.
Well, we're going to actually get into a few numbers, not too much of database, but we're going to get into some newer numbers in the past maybe 4 or 5 years after this. But, yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. It's difficult. This is probably one of the hardest jobs, I would say, in sports, to be a career analyst, to be honest, because it's a lot of projection, and you have to be kind of ahead of the curve on a lot of things. I saw Tate, like I said, at Poway, and I didn't know if he was going to be this good. I didn't think that, but he turned out to be that good. And like Ryan said, with Biagio Ali Walsh, he talked about him at the beginning of the season. I saw him on Twitter talking about him, and he's lived up to it. He's lived past it, really. I mean, he's been one of the better running backs in the country, regardless of name or anything like that. He's been one of the best running backs. He runs hard. But I guess, I'll get into mine. It's a little different from yours, Ryan. At 10, I've got Alan Walters Jr. Obviously had him on the show a couple weeks ago. Great kid. I had him on Bill's shows, too, as a freshman. I think Bill liked him a lot, being a 15-year-old on the show.
I couldn't believe this was a freshman. I couldn't believe we were talking to high school freshmen. If I were 14 and a half, 15, how old was he?
He was 14 and a half. He was about to turn 15. He was getting ready for the state playoff in Jersey, which is a huge deal. Starting as a freshman on Paramus Catholic last year. Big time. He's a big-time quarterback, and he's a 4-star right now. He's going to be a 5-star, I believe. He's going to continue to get better. He's already got offers from Alabama, Michigan, like Ryan said, and pretty much everybody's going to give him an offer when it's all said and done. So he's number 10. Brandon Pierce, who's going to Michigan, is number 9. The more I watch him, the more I'm starting to like him. I know Bree got on me on Twitter. He's a Michigan fan, saying I had him too low. I had him at 14 in the beginning of the season. I just need to watch more tape. Let me enjoy the progression of these kids, just because I ranked them, beginning of the season doesn't mean it's going to end there, and I'm going to do some end of the rankings, end of the season rankings, and he might be even higher. Who knows? He's doing a hell of a job right now. His stats are amazing up in Indiana. So he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He's fun to watch. 8 is Dwayne Haskins, who's actually one of those kids, Bill, that doesn't really – he didn't have two. He's from Baltimore, He's going to Maryland. He's going to be huge for them. Whoever the coach is getting if he stays. The thing about him, I don't know if he's going to stay anymore. He's really close to Randy Edsall and that staff, and they're gone pretty much now. So hopefully they can get him to stay and they don't lose him to a bigger school because I know he's from Maryland. He loves that place, but he might end up decommitting, in my opinion. But he's number 8. Bailey Hawkman is number 7. Not a lot of people watch Bailey Hawkman. He's committed to Georgia, 2017 class. He's 6'3", 200 pounds. He's the real deal. I don't know, he's a young guy, obviously committed to Georgia early. Depends on what Eason does probably, if he's going to stay committed. But he's one of the best quarterbacks. If he can sling it, he's kind of like Eason in a way, just strong arm. He sounds like a baseball player, Bailey Hawkman, because he is. He's the number 1 pitcher in the state of Georgia. So I don't know if he's going to play football, to be honest, because he might get drafted so high out of high school that, can't turn down that money sometimes, right? Archie Bradley comes to mind, kind of, or Joe Mauer maybe for some people. Top overall picks. He's that good at baseball, but he's number 7 as far as quarterback. Dylan McCaffrey is my number 6 quarterback. I actually really high on Dylan. He's my number 2 quarterback of the class behind Tate Patel. I love him, man. He's the most talented in the family. I know, his brother's nominated for the Heisman, or he's going to be nominated for Heisman, Christian, and Ed was great. However, and their mom, is really, really good athlete too, and their uncle or grandfather was Olympian. But, however, Dylan, highest rated So I'm going to give him the projection of being the best right now. He has everything. He's 6'4", 205. His throwing motion is a little funky, but other than that, he has everything you need out of Valor Christian High School in Colorado. If you like, I think he's going to be probably about 6'5", maybe 225, 230 when it's all said and done. He runs a 4.6 flat. His footwork is perfect. He can run really well, not just straight line speed. He's athletic. He's almost like a running back, like his brother, but he just can sling it around the ballpark or the football field. Really well. Tamar Till's 5, Jacob Isaia 4, Blake Kennedy's 3, creep back up, and then KJ Costello's 2, and then obviously Shea Patterson is number 1 pretty much for everybody. So I know a lot of people like Jacob Isaia number 1, but I'm going to go with Shea Patterson. Just like what he can do on and off the field, man. Shea's just a really good kid. He can do everything for you on the football field, too. He's the CEO. He's the guy you want. At Ole Miss fans should be super duper happy that they got him and stole him away from LSU, because I really thought he would go there. But he chose the Rebels. So, yeah, that's my top 10. But I don't know. I mean, games this week, Ryan, obviously there's some big games. I haven't gotten to my top 25 yet. I will, I guess, now. I got Gorman at 1, of course, right? They play Centennial out of Vegas. They've been number 1 for 2 years, so they're not going to lose their spot anytime soon, unless Bosco, who's number 2, St. John Bosco, can win the state title, then we might be talking about something. They play Corona. Allen, Texas plays Nelson. They haven't lost in 3 years, so that's another great school. Corona Centennial plays Chaminade. Trinity plays South Grand Prairie. I've moved them up to number 5. I'm starting to fall in love with your guys, man, Trinity. Right? Even though Colquitt County won 33-13 over Camden County, which was huge.
Yeah, I kept an eye on that game thanks to you for promoting it last week.
Yeah, I had to give Georgia guys some love. I love that team. They're tough. They play Paulding County. Katy, Texas plays the west side of Houston. IMG is done for the season. They don't have any more games left. I hate it. I wish they were playing more games, but obviously we know their situation. They played it out. They had to forfeit the last game because of traveling. But they won all their games this year. So this is the best IMG team they've put together so far, though. It's a really solid team. They can beat anyone in the country. De La Salle and Webb City round out my top 10. I've got Clay Chalkville, St. Edward, Ocean Lakes, South Panola. I mean, the usual, man. The only the teams I want to talk about really are, Oaks Christian did move in my top 25. I moved them to number 25 in the country, actually. I really like that Oaks Christian team in Westlake Village. But I do want to talk about Bingham playing Lone Park and Highland. They're both undefeated. I think that's a really big game out there. South Lake Carroll plays Cedar Hill, which is going to be really huge. And Hart versus Mission Viejo. I kind of want to talk to you about that game a little bit. Do you think Hart has a chance to beat Mission Viejo this weekend, Ryan?
I don't. And since I'm coming off my 2 winning predictions last week on St. John Bosco, Servite, and Centennial and Norco, I'll say that with a little bit of confidence. I think this is the year that Mission Viejo gets back to a state level. I think I don't know if they'll breeze through that, is it the West Valley playoffs? But I think they should come away.
They're great. I hope they don't breeze through, man, because it means they would beat my high school, this Marietta. But
I was just thinking about that.
I know. Well, we have the most seniors in the state. I don't know how they have so many 62 seniors on their football team. But,
wow.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Like, I've never seen that number in my life, any football team. 62 seniors out of 85 kids. So good luck next year, Coach Kendall. But this year you're going to have your work cut out with Mission Viejo, of course. Hart obviously lost too much, man. I mean, I know that's still a brand name, but obviously they lost Trenton Irwin and Brady White, 2 of the top players in the country. That may be the best duo in the state last year. So I don't think they have a chance, but I definitely put a little asterisk next to that one. And then obviously I know Centennial will not beat Bishop Gorman, but I do want to ask you about Greg Rogers, who I've had on the show a couple weeks ago as well. What do you think about him? Do you think he'll have a pretty big impact playing against Bishop Gorman this weekend?
No, just based off last year where he didn't. I don't want to take anything away from him. I got to see him against Arborview, I believe maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he looked really good. I was really impressed with him. I think he'll definitely, compete and be at that level against Bishop Gorman's talented offensive line, but the whole Bishop Gorman team against the whole Centennial team, I don't see that game being really close at all, but I'll definitely keep an eye out on City Boy Greg and give you the report next week.
Of course, man. I appreciate it. Always. City Boy Greg is one of my favorites. He took a lot of shots on this show. I think I'm not mistaken, Jim was on this show when we had some callers in from some other high schools. So he's one of my favorites, man, because he handles himself really well. But the top 25, like I said, there's going to be probably an upset. I know St. Thomas Aquinas almost went down again last week, but they pulled through.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going on with their offense, but it's tough in Florida. I get it, but I just expected more from that team scoring this year. But we'll see. I don't think any of the top teams will lose this week. Like Long Beach, Jordan, they play Illustration, but I think Illustration will take care of business. I'm sure you agree with me on that. But the Lone Peak game versus Bingham, what about that one, though? Because that one's kind of tricky.
Yeah, I think that could be the most competitive game out of all the national teams, especially in the top teams you just named off. Lone Peak is having a really good season, a very balanced team. Their quarterback, Talmadge Gunther, had a great senior season this year, and they have weapons in the passing game, the running game, a good offensive line. So I think that could be a good game. Bingham sits about a 35 or so, 37 game in-state winning streak. So I would give Bingham make Bingham the favorite for this game just based off that winning streak. But I think this will definitely be their toughest opponent. And if Bingham's offense, which has been inconsistent for most of the season, they have high point totals throughout the year. But in some of those games, it was big contributions from the defense leading the points. So Bingham's offense, up and down season, if it's just a down week for the offense, then Lone Peak certainly has a puncher's shot of taking down Bingham and advancing.
Right, I agree with you on that. I'm going to go with Bingham. And then the other game, obviously, Cedar Hill, South Lake Carroll. I actually think South Lake Carroll might pull off the upset. They're a young football team, and Cedar Hill's great. But it's a tricky game, and it's at South Lake Carroll. They're pretty great at home. They have one of the best home records in the past 10 years, top 10 in the country. Obviously, we know about South Lake Carroll, man. They have all types of guys in NFL or playing college football. They got their former quarterback playing on Saturday, Baker Mayfield. So, big time game. He'll be at the game actually. So, they're going to be hyped up. He's probably going to jack him up a little bit. But we'll see. It's going to round out. I really wish that there was going to be a national championship. I think that it's coming, man. I told Bill earlier this year, actually in the summer, that it was going to happen. I was sure of it, but they're not quite ready yet. Next year, maybe, hopefully. I hope so. Because next year, I would hope that if Gorman goes undefeated, Bosco, Allen, maybe another school, I'm not sure, Colquitt County. I would love to see those four schools play.
No doubt.
Or Trinity. I'm not just saying Allen. I mean, Allen just won so many games that you're going to assume that they keep it rolling. But, or De La Salle, whoever. I mean, one of the best teams. I think you take the best four teams from each region and you play them. That's what I would do.
That's a great idea. One New Jersey, one Florida, Georgia, one Texas, one, California or Bishop Gorman. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, that's what we want to see it, and it could be done. It's just there's some older heads maybe that I don't know. I don't know why they wouldn't let Bishop Gorman play that game versus IMG or Colquitt County. It just doesn't really make any sense. I mean, I know that they want the state championship to be the epitome, but I mean, come on, why not?
I could give you a little insight to that.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Yeah. So Bishop Gorman, they have a lot of people have been trying to get them out of the state playoffs because they've been so dominant. I think they're going for 7 in a row. So they want De La Salle out of the state playoffs. So that's sort of a punishment to them. They didn't even they would have a board vote on that if they would let Bishop Gorman go, and they didn't even motion to put the vote in place. So that goes to show you that not only did they not approve it, they didn't even offer to even vote on it. So
wow.
Yeah, and I've heard
that's
rumblings.
inside information right there. I did not know that.
Yeah, there are some high-profile people in Nevada that are trying to come together and either force Bishop Gorman to play, sort of like the Finley Prep basketball program. They're not allowed to compete for a state championship. That's what they want Bishop Gorman to do is, just play state level or national level teams and not compete for state. And one solution that they've talked about is forming an 11-team league that Bishop Gorman would be forced to play 10 Nevada schools because the league is that big, so it'd be 10 league games and no room to schedule national opponents. So,
wow,
sort of some drama in Nevada, but that's where it's at right now, and they don't really want Bishop Gorman to get the chance to play national if they're going to be competing for state.
We always have drama in the West Coast, man, and or in football, whatever. It just happens, especially in the West Coast. I feel like from the beginning of the season till now, Long Beach Poly can't play in the playoffs. They got screwed, in my opinion. They're kids, man. I understand some of these things. I get it. It just sucks, The Long Beach Poly is in the playoffs every year I've been alive, and it's weird not seeing them in the playoffs, especially since I saw them win the game that it took, and they got taken away, so they didn't make it. With Gorman, it's okay. I'm not super sad about it. I don't know about all this 11 conference thing, 10 conference games or whatever. But I don't know. I would just like to see them play extra game, man. It's just one game. I don't get it. I know they're dominant.
Yeah.
They're dominant. Somebody beat somebody. They'll lose eventually, right? One day.
Yeah.
They can't win forever. So they're just dominant, But people get jealous when they have the top two on. Obviously, they've been at the top for almost a whole decade. They're about to win their second national title, possibly, and like you said, 7 titles in the state. Man, they're good. They're just better than everybody by a long shot. I guess it's not really that close, so that's why people are getting a little mad. They just destroy anyone in sight. Pretty much. Arborview would probably be the second best team in the state. You'd say, maybe.
Well, I think Liberty.
Liberty.
They'll play them the semifinal before state. But Arborview will likely be the championship of this section after Gorman gets bicentennial. So, they'll get in Centennial, Arborview, Liberty, and most likely eventually Reed for state. They'll get the 4 best teams outside of themselves before winning the state. But I guess that'll be a good measuring stick to see how far that gap is after they play those 4 teams in 4 consecutive weeks.
It will be. I'm glad you gave us that extra insight, man. Before I let you go, that was because I saw Tate Martrell tweet something about that. Obviously, it was really on him and his brother Tyjon and all those guys, from BG. So I understand the disappointment, but hey, it happens. It's out of their control. They're kids. All they got to do is just play football, keep winning for Coach Sanchez and their school and their families and everything. That's all that matters. You know what I mean? So, yeah. But of course, like I said, Brett Virgil, he's going to be on the show later, probably at the end of the night. If we can't get him on this week, it'll be next week because he is doing film study. But tell the people they can find us all your work. You can stick around, hang out if you want, or you gotta go. Yeah. I understand. You live in Vegas, so there's a lot to do.
I'm gonna go hit the club now. No, but I'll get running and recap the show tomorrow. But thanks a lot for having me on, and Bill and Jim, nice talking with you guys, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you guys got to follow Ryan on Twitter, Swartz27. one of the best follows. He gave us so much insight, top 10 quarterbacks, Vegas controversy, talked about camps, traveling around the West Coast, the country, everything. Ryan Swartz is a great guy. And like I said, we're going to get into coaching. Rob Bill on. We're going to talk about the Illinois coaching job. We're going to talk about the UCF coaching job. We're going to, like I said, try to get Brett Virgil on here at the end of the show. We're going to go back to the 2003 recruiting class. But before we do that, we're actually going to talk about what Jason Kirk and Bud Elliott of SB Nation did. They did a little research about some stars. Stars do matter. Well, there is, there's 5 teams with 50-plus 4 or 5 stars over the past 5 years. Alabama, Ohio State, LSU, Florida State, and Auburn. What do they all have in common? National titles, a lot of them. They all won one at least. They've all, none of them had losing seasons. They're the only teams, like I said, that have 4 or 5 stars, 50-plus for 5 consecutive years. And then the next teams down are UGA, Clemson, Tennessee, Notre Dame, USC and Ole Miss in a tie. Obviously, USC with the scholarship sanctions. They have a good percentage of 5 and 4 stars, but maybe not the actual numbers. So I would say, obviously, they don't matter sometimes, but they do matter. Those are the facts showing you, what Bud Elliott and Jason Kirk are showing you. And the Sparks rankings were pretty impressive, too. I'll probably get Jim's opinion on this, too. Sparks rankings were number 1 LSU over the past 5 years. Obviously, they have been 38 players in the NFL, which is, I believe, the most. Oregon's number 2, Alabama's number 3, Texas A&M's 4, and Florida State's 5. And I guess the best bang for your buck recruiters are Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Stanford, BYU, and Boise State. Obviously, Notre Dame, because they don't really get players from in-state. They have trouble. Indiana's just not that good at high school football, so they don't get those guys. They have higher academic standards than most schools, and, they have honor codes. The same with BYU, would be the largest Catholic school in the country, and, a Mormon school, BYU, LDS. Boise State, obviously, because it's not a Power 5 school, and it's in Boise, Idaho. So, Idaho, not known for top-tier talent, pretty solid talent, but not top-tier talent. And, looking at this, in Stanford academics, Oklahoma, I didn't really know this, but I guess, Oklahoma's a long tradition. I just think of them as just always been a power school, but it's still harder for them to recruit, which I've kind of seen. They were 12th and 14th in the past 2 years, which, Oklahoma's usually been better than that, but they never usually get a top 10 class. It's Oklahoma. That's why. It's still – they battle with so many Big 12 Texas schools and LSU and the West Coast schools. So it's tough to recruit. Bob Stoops does a really good job if you look at the numbers. Not a lot of players in state that he can grab. Does a really good job of getting players all across the country, like Bishop Gorman. He was kind of the first person to dip into that pool and get, 2 of their top players when DeMarco Murray was there. But I want to ask you, Jim, first, the Sparks rankings, are you kind of surprised by those rankings or not surprised, and what do you kind of take from those?
Well, if you're going to say Spark rankings kind of made those teams, I would say that, sure, if you get a bunch of athletes and you coach up 10% of them and they work out, yeah, you're probably going to have a good team. But there seems to be a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy when it comes to some of that stuff, though. Yeah, because I don't think Jarvis Landry's spark was probably not that great. He ended up being a good wide receiver. Odell Beckham Jr.'s spark probably was awesome, and he ended up being a good wide receiver. So,
true.
It's not that surprising. And most of the time the Power 5 conferences have advantages over other schools, particularly politically speaking, because they're the ones that kind of control who gets in the Final Four now for the most part is the Power 5 schools. So if you're a Power 5 program and you're getting the best recruits and they happen to be 5 stars, that's great. But just because you were part of a team, again, football is always going to be an 11-man sort of sport. So, sure, you could say that, oh, look at all these 5-star recruits that are at these big programs that win games that go to national championship. But that's more so the system that was created to allow that to happen more so than what the actual stars mean. Because some of those 5 stars, some of those guys that had high sparks didn't really do much for their team as much as just being a 5-star recruit on a piece of paper.
You kind of have the same feeling, Bill? I mean, like I said, the top, 5 teams that got all the top stars are all national title teams. Are all in the top. Well, Auburn's on the top 25 right now, but consistently they're in the top 25. They've all won national championships. Is that a good correlation, you think, as far as the numbers they did at SB Nation?
Well, here's a good way to look at it. How many of those kids were 3 stars until Alabama offered them, and then suddenly they were 4 stars or 5 stars? I mean, that's the other thing that drives me nuts, is a lot of these kids weren't 5 stars or 4 stars until Clemson or Alabama or USC or whoever offered.
He got offered by Alabama, so he's got to be good.
And then, boom, now the kid's a 4-star. It's like, what the heck? I mean, what kind of cockamamie system is this where completely non-football things, non-football playing things, suddenly cause you to change someone's ranking? So, I mean, it's an automatic correlation. If once Alabama offers a kid, he becomes a 4 or 5 star, how can you not have a correlation?
Exactly. And that's something I didn't think about, because that's something I never do. That's something I never do with the rankings. I know some people do it, so it's definitely great to bring up. That's the camp thing. I do like camps. Camps are fun. Camps you do see a lot of camps, but changing someone's star just because they got offered by Saban or Meyer is a little extreme. This is not smart to me. To do that, I know that's easy or lazy or whatever you said earlier to me to do that. I did want to go over those numbers just because it was interesting to see numbers. You just don't see a lot of high school numbers because there's so many to get out there. And they did. It was cool to mention the bang for your buck theory with Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Stanford, BYU, and Boise State, because those 5 schools do a good job individually what they do, especially Boise and BYU. They're non-Power 5 schools. I know Notre Dame's not either, but it's still Notre Dame. It is pretty hard to recruit.
They're a Power 5 school.
Yeah, they're pretty much. They're a Power 5 school.
They're part of the ACC, like we said, transubstantiation.
Yeah, now they. Yeah, it is. It's funny though, because a few years ago people were making excuses how hard it was to recruit at Notre Dame. Now Brian Kelly and his staff do a really good job. He actually doesn't really look at the rankings that much. If you notice, Brian Kelly's quarterbacks have kind of just been – they've all been good. They haven't really been top guys. I mean, Kaiser was good in high school, but he wasn't the top quarterback in the state. He was like 5th, 6th maybe in the state. Same with Zaire. I know Zaire was Elite 11. He won. But that was a guy that kind of just got hot during the camps, and he's just continued to be a good quarterback. Everett Golson, same thing. Tony Pike, if you want to go back to Cincinnati. He does a really good job at just getting guys to fit his system. He doesn't really get stars. I've actually talked to one of the recruits, and he just said Brian Kelly's a pretty straightforward guy in his staff. They're not camp guys. They're not all at the camp all the time. You know what I mean? They kind of just watch their tape and go to the guys' high school games. They kind of do it old school. So I think Notre Dame does a really good job at that. And the same with Stanford. They kind of take the same boat. In that aspect. Obviously, they get to go to some camps in California, especially with quarterbacks and receivers and running backs, skill position players. But they do a really good job, too. And I really got to give kudos to Boise State. I mean, of course, because their recruiting disadvantages are just tough. Idaho is not a hotbed, man. It's probably one of the bottom 5 states as far as finding football players at the collegiate level. I know they got a couple of NFLers here and there, but it's tough. So I definitely want to go over those schools. And like I said, I think the best recruiting staff in the country probably is Alabama fully, what they have right now. But, gosh, I mean, you got to give credit to BYU. And another team that didn't make this list was Arkansas has done a really good job of getting the players that they need to get in there. Brett Bielema. I know I haven't had the best words for him sometimes, but he does a great job. If he can keep his job, which it looks like he probably will now, at getting linemen, running backs in there. I mean, still Alex Collins and from Miami.
You think
like
keep
that,
his job?
So. I think so. I think if he gets to a bowl game, I think they'll give him another year just because his recruiting classes. It's probably going to be in the top 10. It'll probably be the highest since the Springdale 5 class with Mitch Mustaine and Derek McFadden and Felix Jones and Payne Hill and all those guys. So I think they'll give him another year, especially with Ricky Town being a quarterback, possibly next year. I know Brandon Allen's little brother is going to battle for that job too, but I think Ricky Town's a 4-star quarterback from California coming in. Going to give him a shot, every shot to win it. So Arkansas, I would give them every SEC school pretty much always in the top 50. Even Vanderbilt snuck into the top 50 last year, and they had a lot of disadvantages as well. So, we'll look out for those numbers. It was interesting to me. Maybe not the top 5 numbers as far as stars, but the Sparks numbers were kind of interesting to see what schools have been the top as far as getting the Sparks guys. I figured LSU would be one. Figured Oregon would be in there because that's what they go for is Sparks numbers from talking to their recruiting people. So, but yeah, we're gonna move on. We'll move on from that. We're gonna get into some coaching jobs, man. We're gonna hop into Illinois first. University of Illinois. And, me and Jim have been doing this pretty much every week. I thought it was just going to be like USC, but people just keep getting fired. And I usually don't have enough time to cover all the coaches. So we've done a pretty good job, man. I take it to the Twitter polls and let them pick. I'll let you guys pick the coaches. I pick my guy. Twitter's half and half with Jim, I guess I could say. They like what you pick. They didn't like the Hawaii choice at all, man. They went June Jones heavy. I think you only got one vote for non-June Jones people, but
that's fine. That's fine. Hawaii will no longer have a program soon enough. So
you've done a good job, man. I gotta give you your credit. We're gonna go, 10 names that I get just from around the country and guys from Twitter or beat writers from Illinois, around the state and everything like that. So we'll get into that coaching job. That's a job that can be elite. I mean, we've talked about it so many times with Bill being on his show and him being from Illinois. It still can be an elite job, I think, in that conference. Minnesota is also looking for a head coach. We kind of found them a head coach last week. I think you picked Mike Tice, but Matt Campbell ended up winning on the Twitter polls. So they have Matt Campbell. So they stole him. So not going to mention coaches that we already gave a job to. I'm looking for my candidates right now, actually. I can't find them for some reason. But, I guess, Bill, I guess I know in one guy I was on this with PJ Fleck. So how do you feel about him? Would you give him an interview for the job? Is he a legit candidate?
Well, for Illinois particularly, Matt Rule and PJ Fleck are the two guys I have focused on. And if you can't get Rule, then you are calling Fleck immediately afterwards, and you're doing everything possible to not let him get back on the plane without having signed a deal.
Yeah, I mean, man, he's been recruiting his butt off in the MAC. That's another guy that you got to mention for Banksy. But their recruiting class was 56 last year, according to Rivals.com, which is pretty high for a MAC school, man. Think about it. I mean, 56. That's really good. He's won, they've been the number one school as far as recruiting classes in the MAC 3 years in a row. And they were really bad. He's a young coach, energetic. He's getting a lot in that Bronco program. So I would definitely call him. And Matt Rule's a no-brainer. Of course, you got to have Matt Rule as a candidate on that list as well. What about you, man? Jim, how do you feel about PJ Fleck or Matt Rule, either of them, as coach of Illinois?
I like both. I think Illinois, when was the last time Illinois was actually good? Keep in mind, most of my adult life, Bill.
They went to the Rose Bowl 10. They went to the Rose Bowl 10 years ago with Juice
10 years ago.
And company, and of course led by Ron Zook.
Okay. Because most of my adult life, Illinois has not been a very good football team. They have had different players here and there. I mean, I like Fleck a lot. He's hasn't been the most successful coach at Western Michigan, but he's definitely been a very popular coach with the program. So, like, even though they've been losing games, people don't readily blame him for everything. And the other choice is Rule. He's definitely done a really good job at Temple. I don't know if that's the only thing. I don't know if leaving Temple for Illinois is really a step up for him, though. Like, I don't really see how Temple or how Illinois is a better program than Temple. So
I noticed that as well. I don't know if he would necessarily leave for that job. I don't know what money they're going to have to offer him with the new whole administration coming in. I think they're going to take a while. They need to find the right guy, man. They can't be messing around. They don't have the higher ups right now, the AD and the president and stuff like that. They're all changing as far as administration goes. So I think they're going to take a while, probably to the deadline. You can't take too long because you'll lose recruits. You got to still get out there and find some guys. But another guy that was mentioned, like I said, I pulled these names out. Some of these names are crazy. Jim can attest to. We've had some crazy names on here, some non-deserving, some great names, some perfect names. Doc Holliday of Marshall, who I'm sure both of you guys are familiar with.
Really good recruiter.
I think that would be a good.
Kids love playing for him.
I think that would be a good candidate for this job. How about you, Bill?
Yeah, I was just saying, he's a very good recruiter. Kids love playing for him. A very experienced guy, but still relates well to young kids. I had wanted him to get the West Virginia job when Coach Rodriguez moved on, but that didn't happen, obviously. And Holgerson's done a good job, so I'm not too bitter about it. But I think he needs to be in the right situation.
Right. I don't know who I'd want for this job, but I mean there's not many more people I want more than him. Well, there's a coach that I'll get to eventually. I'll talk about that. I probably think the perfect job. The next guy is Jeff Brom. Jim, I'll let you handle that one. What about Jeff Brom for this Illinois job? Western Kentucky head coach.
Right. I like Brom. Kind of Paterno, disciple. Excuse me. Definitely good offensive coordinator. Has done a lot with the quarterback situation there, and didn't break anything with Paterno left. So yeah, I mean that would be something to look into. One guy I'll just throw in just in the mix. I think who hasn't really got a shot yet is Kevin Johns, the offensive coordinator at Indiana. When I think of what he's done there, offensively speaking, and with their quarterbacks over the last couple of years, when you think about the resurgence of Indiana football and what's worked, it's been the offense. It's been the wide receiver play. It's been the quarterback play improving. It's been the offensive line play improving. It's been the running game improving. And he's been a big part of improving those sort of things. Knows the conference, obviously, in the Big Ten. Not obviously the biggest name, 100%, but if you're Illinois, are you really going to get the big names? So I think he might be a sneaky guy just to bring in for an interview, being a guy that knows the division and has been in a program where he's had a lot of success.
Yeah, that's a name I definitely didn't think about that one. That wasn't on the list, but that's a good name. I actually do like that one because he knows the conference really well. He's going to recruit pretty much the same kids as he's doing right now in Indiana, so that would be a pretty solid one. The next one is pretty big name, probably the biggest name on this list, one of the biggest names. Bo Pelini. Bill, how do you feel about getting the toughness back? With Bo Pelini.
You say getting their confidence back, huh?
Confidence, toughness, all that.
Yeah, a little bit of both.
He wins games, man. 67-27 at Nebraska, even though they got rid of him. But that was controversial. He had some things to say.
I want him back as long as he gets a cat. If there's a cat at the press conference, I'll be all for it.
I think that's the perfect hire for Illinois, to be honest.
I miss Bo Pelini. I'm honest. As a college football fan, I miss Bo Pelini. So I'll say that much.
I mean,
Sure.
I don't know if I miss him, but I just think that's the perfect hire for Illinois. What about you, Bill?
Yeah, he's a guy that his name's going to come up for several of the jobs, and I guess whichever one is where he presents himself best and where he feels best. But he's going to have a few choices very soon.
Right, and another guy saying was a big name. This is kind of a far-fetched one. There's always a stretch name on here. But, hey, I thought Mike Tice was a stretch name last week, and Jim loved it from Minnesota. So this might not be too far-fetched. I'll let Jim take this one, too. Jim Tressel, of obviously national title coach of Ohio State.
Right.
He works with the Colts. Or, no, he doesn't work with the Colts right now. But I think that's his last time he worked with the Colts. But what about Jim Tressel?
That guy.
Yeah, what about old Tressel, the sweater vest, man? That's a guy I've missed, the sweater vest.
Why not? I mean, I guess. I don't know. I still know what he's been doing over the last couple of years. So if he wants to get back in the game, then okay,
There's been some rumors about him having the itch. I don't really know what he's been doing, to be honest. I can't tell you that. Like I said, the last job. Oh well, he's administrator. Yeah, actually, he hired Bo Pelini at Youngstown, so that's what he's doing. He's like the president of the school, actually. So he's been doing a lot. So yeah, he's been, he's been doing some things. He's been, Youngstown State. He's the president of the school. I don't know. That's a pretty good job. I don't know if he's ready to settle down and just do that for the rest of his, life. But if he has that itch, I think this would be a good school to go back to, and get to play your old teams, Ohio State and teams you played against like Michigan and stuff like that. But that's a name that I like it. I just don't know if you're going to convince him to come back. You have to pay him a lot of money for him to step down from that job. Probably have to pay this guy a lot of money too. The next coach, this guy is, I think the Maryland job might be more fitting for him, but I mean this would be a good one too. Greg Schiano, Bill, I'll let you take this one. Would you like to see Mr. Schiano on the sideline? Toughness.
Well, I mean, he does. I mean, UCF would be a good fit for Schiano, I believe. He's stylistically fairly similar to Coach O'Leary. He's a pretty darn good recruiter. Obviously, he wasn't having the advantages of Florida in the past, so he should take a step up in that area. But mostly, UCF is exactly the kind of program that could be very, very good very soon, but they need to be told not to allow anything, and I mean anything, to get in your way when you're having to, deal with the things you have to deal with as a player or a coach. Schiano, for all of his, things that we've heard at least about how he handles guys.
Controversy.
Yes, but you've always seen his teams play hard and usually with a very good level of preparation. And very often that's enough.
And I mean, just imagine the press conferences and handshakes with Jim Harbaugh and Urban Meyer and Mark D'Antoni. I mean,
yeah,
that would be fun. That in itself, you
you went from one controversial coach to another controversial coach. So,
but one probably winning and one not so much. That's the only difference. You can be controversial.
He tried to win. He tried.
That college-wise, I can't, obviously the NFL is different boat, but, he did a pretty good job at Rutgers. They had their moments. They definitely were – they started off really bad. But, what was that program before he took over, They weren't good at all. They gave him a long time to be good because his record's bad. He won 2 games, first year 1, then 5 and 4. Then he went to all the bowl games in a row, I believe, except like 1 year. Obviously Tampa Bay, yeah, he struggled. But college-wise, yeah, I think he'll do a good job. If he can keep that record, do that record at Illinois, we had at Rutgers, I think they'd be happy with that in Champaign. But we'll see. A couple of other names, Mark Hudspeth, What about that one? I know that's a Montel. Montel really likes that one. He obviously, he knows Illinois football too. UL Lafayette. What about that one, Jim?
Yeah, he's solid. It's a solid choice overall. So yeah.
Yeah, he's solid. And I feel kind of the same about Chris Ash, who's the next name. That's the DC, obviously or co-defensive coordinator at Ohio State. I feel like that's a solid one too. A lot of people are going to want to touch the Ohio State guys just because they've had so much success and they've all been in the urban. And I guess the next one is Blake Anderson of Arkansas State. What about that one, Jim?
Arkansas State.
Yeah, that was a name that it's kind of a wild card name. Blake Anderson, I mean, he's done a pretty solid job, I guess.
I like what he does, but, I mean, if you're going to go to the triple option attack, go ahead. So, I mean, he's shown to be a guy that is going to kind of recruit dual threat kind of guys and that sort of thing. So, if you can make a successful football program with that, it's just you might be limiting yourself because certain recruits are going to be a little wary of going there because of scouts don't always like to recruit guys from systems like that for whatever reason,
Right, and I think the word is that a lot of Illinois football is played that way as well. His style offense, they run that in high school. So, Bill, you still there? I think I might have lost him. I'm not sure. But I know pretty much Bill's guy, is Mr. Matt Rule and PJ Fleck. What about you? Out of these guys we've named, Jim, which one would you say would be the best candidate for the job for Illinois?
I like Matt Rule. I wouldn't. Fleck is great. I still like my Kevin Johns pick. So, like, if for some reason Fleck doesn't turn up and Matt Rule goes somewhere else or stays at Temple, then I think Kevin Johns would be a guy that I would really want to get in the room and, just an interview, get a feel for him. But I mean, I do think Fleck and Rule are definitely the two guys that I would most want to see. It's just a matter of getting those guys because I think it's going to be kind of hard to get, especially Rule. I think it's going to be one of the tougher guys to get to come to Illinois.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I'm dead on. I mean, I think it's going to be really hard to get Matt Rule. PJ Fleck, I'll definitely put down. I feel like PJ Fleck is how much can he do at Western Michigan? I think he's going to leave it really good, though, because that's a young football team that's getting better and better, it seems like. And whoever gets the job, whether it's assistant coach or another coach on maybe another ranked lower level or around the country, is going to be left in pretty good hands. But I will put that name down. And I'm going to, Bill Pelini has to be the guy on that list, to go against head and head, I guess. So, I just don't think they can get Matt Rule or Jim Tressel. And I don't know if you'd want Jim Tressel. Like, I just don't know. That's just too risky to me. It's not that he's old or anything like that. Because, I mean, it doesn't matter, it's Illinois. They need a guy who can win anything that, he's always won. Wherever he's gone, he's won. I mean, he'd still be the coach at Ohio State, if it wasn't for the Troy Pryor incident. It's not like he was a bad coach or anything. But, hey, I just don't think that's – I don't think that's where Jim Tressel wants to be right now. I think he likes where he is, back at home in Youngstown. So, but we're going to move on to the UCF job. This job is more interesting. The Illinois job is just we just don't know. We don't know. They don't have administration, for this. So we don't know what kind of direction they want to go in or who they're going to hire. Once they make that hire, I think it'll be a little bit better. But I did want to touch on it a little bit. But UCF is a school that has brand new facilities. They've made a lot of money over the past few years. They've moved up a lot. Georgia O'Leary, obviously they're bad. They're not a good team right now, but you just have better. You're in Orlando, you know what I mean? You get South Florida kids, Central Florida kids, all Florida kids, kids in the South, and you're in a conference that's kind of thriving right now too. So you can kind of feed off that energy as well. And plus, they've just been known to be a pretty solid football team. They've got guys in the NFL right now, Perriman and Bortles or whoever the case may be. All the guys they have in the NFL. So we'll get into this one a little bit. The first name, DJ Durkin. We've already talked about him enough probably on the show. I guess that's a name that we'll both say yes to, of course, DJ Durkin. Mario Cristobal, though, that's a name that he's kind of the lead candidate for Miami job right now, one of the lead candidates. But if not Miami, is UCF a good spot for him to go back to be a head coach?
Oh, sure, absolutely. I think, UCF is kind of an underrated program. It's a big school. It's one of the bigger, non-Power 5. I think it might be the biggest.
Yeah,
honestly,
it is. It actually is the biggest.
Enrollment, at the school. So, it's a large population of people. It's in Florida. It's in the AAC, which is obviously kind of a rising, non-Power 5 conference. And they do get, they've shown that they've been able to get talent there, definitely. So I think that would definitely be, a good spot for that to go down. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you on Cristobal. He can get the most out of that. The guys that maybe don't necessarily want to go to Alabama to be back up sometime. But they get a lot of guys, man, if you think about it. We just talked about their stars. They got 50 4 and 5 stars on their roster. All those guys can't play. As a defense, they can. You do a lot of rotation, but offense, not so much. A lot of those guys end up transferring out anyway. He can get a lot of those guys. He can get guys from all over Florida. He always gets his Miami guys, South Florida guys, because he's just a good recruiter. He's one of the best in the country. The next guy's a really good recruiter as well, and he's at Mississippi State right now. He was at LSU before with Billy Gonzalez. How do you feel about him? It's a name we haven't brought up yet, so it's interesting to hear. The wide receiver / assistant head, offensive coordinator. He has a lot of, hats, at his job at Mississippi State. What about Billy Gonzalez as head coach at UCF?
Sure. Why not Billy Gonzalez? I think there's a lot of, I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities there. I'm not the biggest Billy Gonzalez fan. I know he's with, you're talking about the one for LSU, right?
Right, the one LSU, yeah. 2 national championships there, and then you always been Mississippi State.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. There might be some better choices, but he,
Right. I think I might like Billy Gonzalez to be a full-time coordinator first. Now, obviously, he has a big part of the offense. He's a co-coordinator. He's a receiver coach. He's been for many years, recruiting coordinator. So, he's almost there, but I would like to see him maybe I don't know. He doesn't really deal with receivers. I'm not denying that. Obviously, his track record speaks for itself, but there's definitely better names I think you get for this job than Billy Gonzalez. But the next one is a guy that, he knows Florida pretty well. Al Golden. Move up the road, right? Possibly. Would that be I think this would be actually a pretty solid hire if they got Al Golden.
Sure. If he wants to stay in Miami, I know that there's been talk about the Rutgers job, and that's probably a job he would rather have. But if he wasn't able to get that job, then that UCF would probably be the next logical step, I guess.
Yeah, I would say so. That's a guy that, like I said, he knows Florida well. It's not like he didn't do a good job at recruiting while he was there. Obviously he got canned, but he's still I think he's a solid football coach. He just, that job might have been in over his head there right now at Miami because their expectations are so high. But I think he's, like I said, still a pretty solid coach. Will Muschamp, what about him? Oh, Willie going back to Florida.
mean,
and Auburn's defense
has
looked better in the past couple of weeks. I will give them a little.
It has looked a little better. I will give you that, but it was terrible at the beginning. I mean, sure. I don't know if he would actually want to do that. He might. I mean, Muschamp seems like a guy that wants to stay in the SEC, and if he needs to stay as a coordinator for a while before another job opens up, he'll do that. But I don't know. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, I think he would want another Power 5 or SEC type job, or maybe even ACC. Obviously, a Texas school would be pretty great for him since he's from there. But the next guy is kind of a hot name, a name that Bill brought up. If he was here, this would be kind of one of the names I know he likes a lot, is Kendall Briles, the son of Art Briles, the offensive coordinator, co-offensive coordinator with his dad. Young guy, really young, babyface looking, but he's 31 actually. But what about Kendall Briles bringing some of that Texas spread to that UC? I think it could work. I mean, they have athletes too, really good athletes and good quarterbacks out there. But he's really young.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, UCF's offense they stink. They're not good. When they were good, obviously they were good offense. With Bortles and Rashad Perriman, like I was saying, and they're running back Storm Johnson, I believe his name was. So, something like that. But so yeah, I mean, I would like to see. I don't know. Like Kendall Briles, I think he's going to stay there for a little longer than this until they maybe reach that peak, until that college football playoff. So I don't know about him. I mean, sure, interview, but I'm not sure. The next one's kind of interesting name, though. He is a former coach in Miami as well, Randy Shannon. He's the co-DC right now at Florida. I think this will be – I know this is Bill's hire that he would like to see them make, but I don't know about you.
For Randy Shannon?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a possibility with that program. But, yeah, it's possible.
Possible. Yeah, Jeff Collins, his co-defensive coordinator, I would say, too. He's obviously younger, less experienced, but I think he would be a good name thrown there. James Cooley, who is the head, he's kind of running the show at Miami right now as far as the offense goes and recruiting still. I mean, he's a lame duck. He's not going to be there, I'm sure. But, James Cooley is a name that's been brought to. The next name this is the last name for this UCF job, is interesting because he's kind of more known in the high school ranks. Working with quarterback. He's the quarterback coach of the St. Louis Rams right now, Chris Winkie. Kind of an off-the-wall name. What about Chris Winkie for this job? Jim?
Chris Winkie.
Yeah. The kids like him, I'll say that.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I think
has he coached any? I mean, in terms of head coaching?
No, not at all. Well, I mean, he was the head coach at IMG Academy, which is really close to being a college team, but that's it. That's the only team he's been the head coach of. He was the head coach of them for the past 6 years, and obviously he's, like I said, quarterback coach of the Rams. Not doing that great right now, but still, like I said, pretty solid coach. And like I said, people swear by him as far as helping down at IMG Football Academy with their training. I mean, you have Cam Newton. I know he worked out with him during the walkout, which was pretty big for him. That was kind of when Chris Winkie got the name recognition, I feel like. He worked out with Alex Smith as well. Kind of helped resurge him a little bit towards the end of his career, or the peak of his career, I guess, with Kansas City when he moved on there. But yeah, I mean, I guess that'd be a name. Obviously he's a Florida guy, or he's a Minnesota guy, but I mean, he's really well known in Florida. He's won a Heisman Trophy and everything. So I think he'd do a pretty good job of recruiting, especially IMG, that area pretty well in Central Florida. So I don't know. I mean, the two names I would take from this is, I mean, Randy Shannon, I just think that he could do wonders for that. And plus, that could be a launching pad for him to get another big-time coaching job. It might have to take him going down a little bit to this type of job. But, I mean, he's doing a great job at Florida. That defense is one of the best in the country. I mean, it's one of the reasons they're even in consideration to be in the college football playoffs. Their offense is not great. They run the ball really well, good receivers. The quarterback plays average at best. Defense is good, though. So he's got a good job there. Jeff Collins, too, will be another name, his co-defensive coordinator. And, I mean, I would say probably Al Golden. I mean, I think Rutgers' job, like you said, would be, probably better fitting, but I think he would look at this job, too, and maybe try to get them back, A lot of people, some people think he got fired too early. I mean, they got blown out of that game. That was the end. There's nothing he could do after that. So I think it was pretty much over from then. But, yeah, we'll take the names of Jeff Collins and Randy Shannon. We'll take those two names to Twitter. We're going to get into the 2003 recruiting class, actually. This class, gosh, it makes me feel old, kind of. Like, I rewatched Trojan War today. I don't know if you've seen that, Jim, yet. It's on Netflix now, but, obviously it was on ESPN for a little while, too. It's just, like, looking back at – that was kind of the recruiting class that made USC what they were. That's what made the Trojan War thing. I mean, the class with Liner before that, too, of course, and Carson Palmer set it in stone, but this class was everything. One of the best recruiting classes of all time. Rivals.com, I use their top 100, of course. Work for Rivals.com. So, plus, they have the best recruiting database just because it goes back so far on to all the way 2000, I believe. So, the number one player was Reggie Bush in this class. And number two was Ernie Sims. Talk about Reggie Bush for a little bit, Jim. His career was good, I'll say. But obviously for me, he didn't live up to the hype. He's one of the best players I've ever seen in my life. He is the best running back I've ever seen in person. Maybe outside of Leonard Fournette, one of those two guys. But, Reggie Bush did – in some of those games was just electrifying. I was at the Fresno State game where he put up all those all-purpose yards, and I was at the game after that at UCLA. And I was at the Rose Bowl, too, and they lost. And, obviously he didn't have his best game that day. But what do you think about Reggie Bush's career in whole? It might be the end, man, because he just tore his ACL.
Yeah, true. I think the main thing about Bush is that he was a back that was definitely very exciting, fast, quick, stuff like that. Had injury problems early in his career. Not necessarily tearing ACLs and stuff like that, but just soft tissue injuries a lot. That kind of slowed him down and hampered him, affected his performances. Goes to the Saints, and he goes, and as we know with Sean Payton, he's a running back by committee guy. So your package player Bush rather than full-time Bush. And the only other thing about Reggie Bush is just that, his career at, me being a metrics guy, I do a lot of market share stuff. And when he was at USC, he definitely did a lot of all-purpose stuff, punt returns, kicker, in terms of special teams type plays. But Bush was never really he was always, again, in a committee with the other back, and I'm forgetting his name.
Wendell White.
Right. Yeah. They shared the load, that sort of thing. And Bush was never really elite in terms of his market share. Like, he wasn't really producing like a Marcus Allen or a Barry Sanders or Emmitt Smith in terms of the percentage of the offense. He was more with, guys like Jamal Charles and, Stephen Davis, Maurice Jones-Drew, those types of players. So guys that weren't really special players, but very good players. And I think the one thing about Bush is, I know some people want to label him as a bust, but what we've seen so far him going to Miami, him going to Detroit, he's been able to be a lead back. He's been able to show that he can carry the load for a team and be the primary running back, and proven that he wasn't totally a bust. I just think that he, based on what I do, he was not really a total slam dunk, like this is a greatest of all time. Like there were certain things that pointed towards him just being very good versus being elite, I guess is all I'm trying to say. And unfortunately, when you get drafted, second overall, people kind of put expectations on you that you may not be able to live up to, and that's one thing I think is wrong with Bush. I think Bush is a guy that if he had been drafted in the late first or day 2, he would have not have been viewed as a bust, or stuff like that. But I think overall his career has been very good, for a running back at least. He's had a pretty long career up to this point, and produced really well. He just didn't really end up becoming that, future Hall of Famer back just because of health, because of he just possibly wasn't as good as we all thought he was, 100%. But it depends on how you look at it, I guess. But for me, at least, I always viewed Bush as a really good back that had way too high expectations put onto him, and unfortunately, he didn't live up to it 100%. But he did end up being a very good back.
Yeah, he was very good. For me, like I said, I was a kid, man, watching this. I had never seen anything like it. The power, speed he had, the speed, the athleticism, the ability to juke and do anything pretty much in the football, on the football field. He could probably play defense. He was just good. Like I said, I was watching Trojan War. They said the first time they ever played football, he ran for 300 yards. Hadn't really practiced at all. Pop Warner just ran the football. He's just a freak athlete to me. And I love the way he caught the ball as well. He had a lot of receptions. I will say that. I was looking at his stats. 466 receptions is a lot for a running back. I don't know numbers-wise. I don't have them like you, but I figure it seems like a lot to me, especially his first couple of years in New Orleans. But, I wish he had to stay healthy, man. And I think some of the people that call him a bust was just, because of how exciting he was. We hadn't really seen a player like that in a while. He had some Gale Sayers, like Marshall Faulk comparisons. I know my dad was a huge Gale Sayers fan. And he actually, was saying that, this is probably the closest thing I've seen to this guy. And I know he didn't live up to that hype. But, he was a good running back and still can be. Hopefully he can come back healthy from that injury he had in St. Louis a couple weeks ago. The other top player, he kind of is a bust to me because of I don't know. I won't say he's a bust. He was always an undersized linebacker, Ernie Sims. What do you think about Ernie Sims' career, Jim?
Well, Sims was a guy that was productive in college, but wasn't elite productive. He wasn't producing. He wasn't producing like a Luke Kuechly or Ray Lewis or Urlacher or Willis or a Briggs or a Bullock, right, or even A.J. Hawk. He was just kind of a solid guy. Same areas, kind of guys like Sean Witherspoon, John Beeson, and Landon Johnson, other guys like that. He had a few good years, a few solid years. He definitely was a little undersized, 5'11" or 5'10", somewhere around there. Kind of short for a linebacker. Was productive, but probably wasn't elite. Was definitely a good linebacker in the NFL, but wasn't at least people that might have seen him as this second coming of like a elite pursuit linebacker. He was never really any of those types of things, and unfortunately the same sort of issue happened with him.
Yeah, I think the last time he played was with the Dallas Cowboys a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago. He had his years in Philadelphia, and I know Detroit too. Detroit, he was pretty good in Detroit. He had a pretty good career, but like you said, he didn't wasn't elite. Had a pretty solid career. Kind of ended short though. Whitney Lewis is on this list, Andre Caldwell. Kyle Wright was a huge disappointment at Miami. Probably him and Ja'Cory Harris just definitely set them back a few years, not being great. Kyle Wright was supposed to kind of be, Ken Dorsey, but they didn't have the team around him, and he didn't play as good. Paul Oliver, rest in peace. He was, actually a top 10 player in the country. Passed away recently in the past few years. The number 10 player is one of my favorite tight ends in the NFL, and I think he's one of the best guys in the NFL. I mean, I've never met him, I don't know him or anything, but he just seems like a really good guy. Greg Olsen. He's the offense, man. Outside of Cam and the running back, he's the go-to receiver on that team. Greg Olsen, he's the captain. He was an All-American. He was a rapper at one point. If you guys listen to his rap song, Miami, All-American, like I said, national champion. One of the best tight ends, consistent. He's played every snap. He's the only player in the NFL offense play every snap too, so that's important. Is Greg Olsen, can he make the Hall of Fame, or is he already a Hall of Famer in your eyes?
I mean, sure, why not? I mean, it depends. It depends on how you view tight end position. The tight end position has been one of those positions that doesn't always get the most love for the Hall of Fame. I think when you look at his career, there's going to be people going, yeah, Greg Olsen was good, but Tony Gonzalez was better, or Antonio Gates was better, and like that sort of stuff might happen to him a little bit, but he's definitely been extremely productive. He was a great player at Chicago, was a great player with the Panthers, and he's continued on, to be that, And, yeah, he has everything to that Panthers offense. A lot of people wanted to be like, oh, Kelvin Benjamin, what are we going to do? They lost Kelvin Benjamin, and I was just kind of like, well, at least you didn't lose Greg Olsen because he was really the big. I mean, Kelvin Benjamin definitely has a role in the offense when he's healthy, but Olsen has always been there. He's always there, so always had that role there. So he's just that guy that has been almost like a Martellus Bennett to a certain extent. Has been a guy that didn't get a ton of credit early in his career, how good he was, but as time has gone on, people have noticed him more and more. And he definitely is at least hitting the peak of his career right now.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about him. That's why I asked is that, most people would just laugh at that. Of course he's not a Hall of Famer, but I know he's 30, just turned 30 years old. People are sometimes just better at the end of their career. If he can keep putting up these type of numbers, it was actually his first 1,000-yard season last year. If he can keep putting up these type of numbers for the next few years, then maybe, especially if the Panthers are in the playoffs consistently every year, which would be really big for him too. So, that's a guy that, I know he's 30, people call him old, but he's not old. He's still in the prime of his career. He's healthy. He usually never misses too many games. He actually missed more early on than the past few years. He hasn't really missed too many. He's been with the Carolina Panthers. I think he's only missed 3 games since 2011 or something like that. So, he's probably one of the best players of his class, too. As far as just college, he's in the Hurricanes Hall of Fame. And then, he might not make the Hall of Fame, but he'll be remembered as a really good tight end. He came in at the era of tight ends, and, like you said, Gonzalez, Gronkowski, Gates, all those guys, overshadowed him before some. Lamar Woodley is on this list as well. Chad Jackson didn't work out at all. Pretty good at Florida, but not for the Patriots. Robert Meacham, Craig Lumpkin, Jarvis Moss, Chris Leak, Dante Whitner. I don't know which one he goes by now. I want to stop at number 28 and talk about former Louisville running back Michael Bush, because I know you know a lot about Michael Bush, man. What can you tell me about Michael Bush's career? Tell the people about Michael Bush's career. It's kind of been an odd one, I feel like. He had a lot of hype coming out of high school as a just athlete. Didn't know what position he'd play. Some people thought he'd end up being a linebacker, but obviously got drafted pretty high and played in the NFL, as a running back.
Oh, yeah. Big player, had a lot of similar qualities to LeGarrette Blount type of player, big, very quick, agile feet, for his size. Broke his leg. I believe he broke his leg. I think that's what it was. He broke his leg when he was at Louisville, or had some sort of leg injury. Went to the Raiders. Became kind of when Darren McFadden got hurt, Michael Bush stepped into the fold. Like he was kind of the backup plan, I guess, a lot of times for the Raiders. And was very good at times. Had some really good performances against the Chargers. And when you had to call him up, he was kind of one of those backs where when the starter went down, he would come in and perform. Unfortunately, once he left the Raiders, went to Chicago, wasn't the best experience there for him 100%. At least with how his career turned out. After Chicago was over, he kind of left, went to the Veterans Combine. I remember we went to the Veterans Combine, which was, last year, ran like a 4.8 or 4.9 or something, and he basically said, yeah, my career is done. Nobody's going to, hire a running back who runs 4.9. But for when he would play, I mean, he was a very gifted player in terms of a big back with really good flexibility, and agility. But unfortunately, he never really got the starting role 100% because of Darren McFadden, because, it was the Raiders, Like, we kind of did weird things. We did weird things. We had Justin Fargas and, Huggy Bear. We had all these other sort of guys, that were doing their thing too when Bush was there. But he definitely was a really good player. It's just unfortunately left the Raiders for Chicago. Matt Forte's there, obviously, and then nothing else happened from there. His career kind of faded away.
Yeah, rest is history pretty much. Yeah, Michael Bush, I did want to highlight that name just because I know you're a Raiders fan. You saw a lot of them. I mean, he had a 4.91. And he was just like, there goes my career. I guess that was his quote. Surprised. I mean, I thought he still maybe had some juice left, possibly. I mean, I don't know, but obviously he's done now. But, I mean, there's a lot of guys on this list. Like, this is like an older crew, so a lot of these guys are out of the NFL now. Some of the guys are still there. Steve Smith is out of the NFL now. He's a USC receiver, obviously. The other Steve Smith. Shaw Bailey, guys like that. Terrell Brown, who's still playing. Antonio Cromartie, obviously, is a great defensive back. He's still there. So Vernon Davis, who just got traded, probably one of the best players in this class, I would say. Stop at this player, too. We mentioned Dennis Dixon. I wish he never got hurt like he did. He probably would have won the Heisman that year and been maybe a top draft pick if things would have worked out differently, but he tore his ACL so late in the season that just never looked the same. But Maurice Jones-Drew, still want to talk about. He was a 5'7", 190-pound back from De La Salle, California back then. Didn't really grow too much as far as height, but he grew a lot of the player, obviously, and he just retired at the beginning of the season. What are your feelings on Maurice Jones-Drew? He's kind of one of those guys that's like a Hall of Almost player, like too many injuries. Like, he was a really good running back for a while, probably a fan favorite, of course, in Jacksonville.
Maurice Jones-Drew, I mean, to me, he was an elite player, man, for about 4 years. For 4 years, he was one of the best running backs in football, period. Really fast, really explosive, great balance, power, total package type guy. Had the season at Jacksonville, which that was kind of, I mean, at least to me, I mean, that was the one season where he put his body through a lot of punishment that year. And I believe, it was 2011. Yeah, 2011. And that, of course, was a Blaine Gabbert year, rookie year. So, Blaine Gabbert was struggling. Their wide receiver situation was bad. Their tight end situation wasn't much better. The offensive line regressed. Everything was put onto his plate. He had to be the guy. and he did that year. He put his body through a ton of stuff. Was easily, I mean, to me in 2011 he was a top back, but he put his body through so much stuff. 2012 gets injured, of course. 2013 comes back, has a respectable year, but also battled some injuries here and there. And then 2014 was on Oakland, and he just wasn't the same guy. Didn't have the same burst, didn't have the same athleticism, 100%. So it's sad to see that, but at least to me, I mean, that's Jones-Drew is in the same place as guys like Sean Alexander and, Priest Holmes, like these guys, these running backs who have these 4-year, 5-year sort of spans where they were the best at their position or one of the best at their position for 4 straight years, 5 straight years, and then the wheels just come off, which is what everybody worries about with running backs, obviously. But during that 5-year period, he was pretty dang awesome. He was pretty dang awesome. The one play I always remember from him, which I know you probably remember, is with Sean Merriman was trying to go in for a blitz, and then Drew just popped him onto his ass. I remember it was just like, what the heck was that? That tells you everything you need to know about Reese Jones-Drew. Was just kind of that sneaky guy. Everybody underrated him because of his height, but because of how tall he was, but was a gamer, man. Played hard every game for that time period. Just couldn't keep it going past that,
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I do remember that play. And pound for pound, definitely one of the better players in the NFL for, the 4 years you're talking about. Definitely had 1,000 yards every year those seasons. I mean, rounding out these names, he played with the Raiders too, and I'm gonna get to another Raiders guy we'll talk about. This is just the Raiders class. Michael Griffin is in this class. You guys pretty much had every player in 2003 recruiting class. Reggie Nelson. I don't know if Reggie Nelson ever played the Raiders, but another Florida player, DB there out of Palm Bay, was in this class as well as a top player. Cedric Ellis, Lawrence Jackson, those 2 guys from USC. Quarterbacks were bad. I'm not Tommy Gray. I mean, none of these quarterbacks ever played in the NFL in the top 100. So, I won't even go into those guys. Well, one guy did. I'll get into him after that. But, there's some guys. Laurent Landry, he was probably doing some – well, I think he got called with PEDs, if I'm not mistaken. So he was pretty good. He had some moments. Sam Baker, who's still playing in the NFL, kind of – disappointing, I guess, to me, because I thought he was going to be really good. So that's why my most disappointing player in the class. But the last guy I'll mention in the 2003 recruiting class is Mr. Jamarcus Russell, a name you probably don't like to hear, but you're going to hear it for the rest of your life. I never was a big fan of Jamarcus Russell as far as the NFL going towards the NFL, playing for the Raiders, being the number 1 overall pick and everything like that. But he was the number 59th player in the country coming out of high school. He had a pretty good LSU career. It was kind of short because he split time at quarterback, but you could name so many things that went wrong, I guess, with Jamarcus. But if you had to do it all over again and kind of teach him the ropes, Jim, what would you tell him to do? Obviously not drink lean.
I don't know.
Or promethazine.
I don't know. The thing about Jamarcus is that, a lot of people want to blame him for some of the stuff he did with the criminal, the court system and stuff like that, or character or this or that. Honestly, he just was not smart enough to pick up NFL offense. Some people want to say that he was lazy or that he was this or he was that, but I don't really think it's that. I think he just legitimately could not process the game very well. I mean, a lot of the same issues that E.J. Manuel's had that we've seen in games, in terms of getting the ball and just kind of looking around and not being able to figure, you see his head swimming, you see him just thinking, I don't know what to do. Should I throw it here? I don't know. And then taking the sack. That's Russell to a T. He's just one of those guys where he just couldn't pick up a playbook very well. Couldn't process offenses on the field very well. Mechanics were come and go. Had a big arm. The only worst part about Russell was that we would be in games where the offense would not do anything at all, and then he would get hot for one drive, score a touchdown, and then we end up winning the game miraculously. Like, it was like it's one of those things where I could tell you stories about, when we played the Jets when they had Favre. I was at that game, and we ended up beating Brett Favre on the arm of Jamarcus Russell. I mean, if I had told you this, Donovan, today, you'd be like, no way. You beat Brett Favre with Jamarcus Russell. That happened. I mean, he had his moments, but he was just a guy that just couldn't process things very well. Sure, people say he was lazy or that he wasn't committed. I mean, you can make those excuses. I don't know the guy. I can't say that for sure, but all that I do know for sure, based on how I've watched him play and how I've seen him in terms of how he carries himself and talks about football, he just doesn't seem like the highest football IQ guy. And that's just something he struggled with, and he continued to struggle with that throughout his career. So as much as people want to bring up, the sipping on some scissor and, all that, get arrested for this or holding out up into the season and to get all the money and all that kind of stuff, I don't really care about that stuff that much. As much as the fact that even if he was a saint, even if he was, a schoolboy, type of player who went to church every day of the week, honestly, and gave all his money to charity, none of that would have mattered because he just could not read defenses. He could not process the game very well, and he just struggled mentally on how to be a quarterback. So that's really what it comes down. At least to me, that's what it comes down to.
No, I agree. I think he was overdrafted. I think that, like you said, E.J. Manuel's a good guy and a good kid, and everybody talks about how well spoken he is and how smart he is off the field. But when it's between the lines and in the film room, he struggles to do that. And he struggles on the field because of that. And I think at best he would have probably been E.J. Manuel's career, which is better than probably Jamarcus' career because he's still in the NFL. I was surprised he didn't get a second chance. He had the whole redemption story with.
He kind of did. Russell kind of did. Russell, he went to the Saints. You have to understand, he had a weight problem, man.
Yeah, that was
the Raiders had can you imagine one time on the Raiders, Jamarcus Russell came into training camp weighing 300 pounds. How many quarterbacks do you know come in weighing 300 pounds?
None. Well, him and Jared Lorenz, I guess. Lorenz
Exactly.
But yeah, the hefty lefty is pretty much the same spot as Jamarcus right now. But I know he had. I watched the Jamarcus Russell road back to the NFL with Jeff Garcia and Olympian or something like that, Bolden, Marshall Falk, and he just got beat out. When he was trying out for the Bears, I remember Jordan Palmer, actually beat him out, and Trent Edwards, actually, both of those guys. So he's kind of done right then. Steve White called him the biggest bust in NFL history, and the Huffington Post. So not good, not good for his career, I guess, and the Raiders. But now the Raiders have a quarterback, and they look a lot better, and everything's fine. It took a while. But, that's about it for the top 100. Thank you for coming on the show, Jim. Ryan Swartz, thank you. Bill Caroll, thank you. Both guests, we had on before, Brock Mattison and Jacob Isaia. Thank him, too. The show's been great, man. It was locked and loaded. Next week's show's going to be great. We're going to I'm going to move up. These classes are old, I know I can still go back. I think I'm going to go to the 2007 class. I'm going to look over that. Probably look at that one, see. We're going to find some more head coaches. Hopefully nobody gets fired, man. I don't want anybody to get fired, but it'd help us.
Listen, man, the streak continues.
The streak continues. Well, no one got fired last week, I don't think.
Okay, that's true.
we got the North Texas job still we're going to talk about, which is going to be kind of easy because there's just so many Texas connection coaches. They're all going to be probably coordinators. And there's one more job out there. It's Maryland that we haven't gone over because it's kind of, they're in an odd state, kind of like Illinois too with their administration, but we'll go over that job as well. We'll go over the top 25 as well. We'll have a couple of interviews, a couple of prospects on. Jim, tell the people where they can find and follow your work.
Sure. You can find my work at NFLSpinZone.com and Fansided.com or draftcoburn.wordpress.com. Where I put some of my metric stuff that I've been working on recently. Mainly doing just breaking down tapes and stuff like that. I've been doing a lot of legwork for a bunch of projects that I don't really want to, tease or anything yet because I really don't know if they'll turn into anything. But that's really what I've been doing. And, of course, you can also follow me on Twitter at capital JM Coburn1 on Twitter. And, that's about it. It definitely was a lot of fun, Donovan, and we'll talk probably this weekend or some other time.
Yeah, man, of course. Definitely give Jim a follow, guys. He's a good one, man. He's always on Twitter like me. You're probably the only person I know that's on Twitter as much as me. And then we're on the same time, too, because West Coast time. So
yeah, West Coast time.
It's fun, man. A lot of retweets. You don't really tweet nonsense too much. Like, you kind of keep your personal life out of it. But you just to the football, which is great. I like that. And, actually, I want to get a prediction from you. I got to keep remembering to do this. The games of the week are important to me, like the college game day game, just because those are usually the recruiting battles of the week, too. This one has a lot of impact on recruiting. 15 recruits are going to be at this game. 15, and that's just right now. There's going to be more. That's just official visits. Unofficial visits, who knows? Like, whoever's in the stadium, who's ever watching, there's literally a kid that's going to commit that night after the game. So this game could sway. It's Baylor, Oklahoma, of course. It's everything in the south, in that region. It's Oklahoma versus Texas. It's that region, there's two coaches, two quarterbacks, everything. The matchups are just galore. I can't wait. Outside of the Alabama-LSU game and maybe Clemson-Notre Dame earlier this year, this is probably the game I've been most excited about actually to watch, to be honest, just because there's just so many matchups. And this one's going to have more scoring, so I'm going to be even more happy. But who do you have in that game, Baylor, Oklahoma, actually?
Yeah, oh, my gosh. It's such a tough game because the one thing I know about Oklahoma is that defense can slow Baylor down, has done it in the past. They do have a quarterback that showed that he's good, that he could step in and do the thing, but he's still a young guy who hasn't really been tested 100% in big games. This is probably the biggest game he's ever been in at this point. So I still think it's going to be Baylor. I like what they have on defense to kind of combat what Mayfield's going to do. And I just think their offense is still going to be productive against Oklahoma, but it could go either way. It's going to be a tough matchup for both of these teams, and whichever one wins, it's going to have a lot. If Baylor loses, this may be it in terms of the Final Four stuff. Yeah,
and for them or just Oklahoma State would be one. Yeah, it would be only Oklahoma State because you're not going to get in with one loss unless you're Oklahoma.
No.
So Oklahoma has a slight chance to get in with one loss.
They have a slight chance with one loss, but I just think that when it comes to the voters and how they do stuff, they're not going to give enough respect to the Big 12, if that makes any sense. So even though Oklahoma may have a one loss, they would rather put in a one-loss SEC team over Oklahoma or, and that sort of thing. So, if you're going to get into the Big 12, I just think you have to go undefeated if you're going to get in.
I do think you have to go. Like I said, I think I said this a few weeks ago. Oklahoma lost to Texas, and it was Texas such a bad loss because they're not going to win a bowl game, so that's a really bad loss. But I will say this: out of all the teams in the Big 12, can lose one game, so getting into Oklahoma would obviously be Texas too, but they have no shot. But Oklahoma, because of the name, and they like Oklahoma. They just have a national brand, and they're, they got Big Game Bob, and everything. So they like them. But, yeah, it's going to be hard. I mean, they still have to play TCU, Oklahoma State, though. So it's and Baylor, obviously, on Saturday. So it's no walk in the park for them. Tennessee would help if they could win out. That probably helped them out a tad bit. They can get to 8 wins, and then we'll see. I mean, it depends how the scores go. If they start blowing some of these teams out, then yeah, But I don't think that's going to happen. I'm picking Oklahoma by 1 point. I think it's going to be 42-41, classic type of game. I think Stidham will be fine. I just want to see if they can run the ball. They're not known for running, obviously. They ran a little bit last week versus K-State. I think they'll be better off running the ball this week too, to really take the pressure off of their receivers. I mean, their receivers can handle the pressure, no doubt, Stidham, but if they can run the ball, get it early on, and just shut Oklahoma down. Oklahoma's that's a confident team. That's probably one of the most confident teams I've seen, as far as, having moxie and poise and just, having that. Obviously, the Texas game, they blew, but they were just flat for some reason. They thought they were going to win. They were too cocky possibly, but I think they'll win. It can go either way. But as far as the Big 12, yeah, I agree with you. It's going to be tough for them to get in. But if they do go up against maybe a Stanford, then we're probably – I don't know how the committee would take the Stanford team or Notre Dame or whoever with one loss. But SEC, no way. That one-loss team is getting in for sure. But like I said, man, that game's going to be fun. A lot of recruits at that game, 15 is what we counted on their visit. One of the kids is going to commit during the game or after the game. So that's going to be pretty fun to watch. You guys follow me on Twitter at DonJamesSports. You can find my work at rstnreport.com. Started my job at Rivals.com. Big thanks, big ups to those guys for letting me run their social media account. Lots of interactions, Jim, with people. Obviously, thousands of followers, a lot of mad, angry people at the rankings. It's okay, people. It's just the second week. I don't make the rankings. I just tweet them out. I'm not biased. My team's not even ranked.
Yeah, don't shoot the messenger.
Yeah, don't shoot the messenger. I waited for USC to even be ranked. I thought we would be ranked this week. We're literally we're the 26th team in the country. So we're close. We're getting there. But we'll see how that plays out in here. But, yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to the show tonight. This is the Don James High School Football Report on NGSC Sports, where we never stop. And thank you guys so much again. Next week's show is going to be locked and loaded, too. Have a great week and enjoy football.